A very warm welcome to our annual plan hearings. A warm welcome to our speakers who are already with us, waiting to present. And if we could all please stand for our opening karakia. Tu taua mai runga, tu taua mai raro, tu taua mai roto, tu taua mai waho. Ia tau ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, hongi e, hui e, tai e. We have apologies from Councillors Mawson, Taylor and Tariha. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Price and Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, carried. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Announcements by myself, just to let you know that under the separate cover of submissions from submitters who were intending to speak to us today, we have three who are no longer speaking to us, Roger Skeets, Bob Hawley and Kieran Rinhart. Any announcements by management?
None.
Okay, so just to let you all know that of course these hearings are being live streamed to Council's Facebook page and recorded. Our speakers today will have 10 minutes in total to present and to respond to questions from elected members. There will be a bell at 7 minutes, just so that you know we sort of need you to be wrapping up to provide some time for any questions that there may be.
Mayor, sorry, I just wondered, one of the speakers tomorrow I will declare a conflict with. Do you want me to declare it now? It's the grey power submission.
That would be
tomorrow.
Useful, thank you, and then we'll make a note of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bogue. Okay, so yes, there will be a bell at 7 minutes. Excellent. Now, I do note that on my run sheet we don't have the presenters here yet, but I understand that Marilyn Purko is with us already. I'd like to invite you to come and present to us, please. A very warm welcome. Thank you for being here.
Am I on? Okay. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Marilyn Purko, tako ingoa. I am here to express my opposition to the closure of the temporary library at the MTG for 2 or more years until the new library civic centre is built. I was expecting to present after the speakers from the Museum Trust. I had had an informal conversation with one of the trustees. I was sort of hoping that she might support keeping the library open. She made it very clear we want it gone. So I'll just declare that to start with. And I do understand their frustration, but as the pamphlet that I got from the library quoted that the MTG site will continue to house books and it will become a book storage space, so the Museum Trust will not get access for it until it is completely gone. Now, what is a library? A library offers a range of services beyond books and resource material. It provides a centre of learning and gathering, and for me, it is the heart of a community. For me, it is a joy to go into our library and see it quietly buzzing with old and young, visitors and residents, and friendly, informative staff. So how do we align this with the proposed closure? A few facts. Mayor Wise, you have on 2 occasions cited, one in the Hawke's Bay today on the 22nd of April, and I quote, "We were going to be closing early for preparations for transitioning to the new build, about 8 months early." And again on the platform interview with Michael Laws, but the time frame somehow had extended to 8 to 10 months. So regardless of whether it closes on July the 1st, you're going to be closing it for 8 to 10 months. It's hardly the National Archives that you're moving. So I really don't understand why it has to take that long. And now the closure of the library on Saturdays started as from the 17th of May, and I quote, due to staff shortages. So was this part of the Napier City Council restructuring? And am I being cynical here in saying, is this the first step for a total closure as of July the 1st? Now, library usage, I see on the schedule that Mary Ann Eyes is going to be speaking, so I'm not going to reiterate some of her wonderful research she's done looking at the data of the usage of the library. But for me, it's impressive that from February 2024 to February 2025, there were 244 issues per day. Some of those would have been online, and 238 people entering the library per day. Savings has been mooted as a reason for closing the library, and the figure has been around 600K. Some of it, that's gone up, fluctuate a little bit, and it's varied. And I know some of that is due to the need for security. I acknowledge that, but it's interesting considering the new build library and civic centre is budgeted now for upwards of 100 million. I find this irresponsible in these fiscally challenging times. So were there any other options for the new library? Last year, a representation from the Waiapu Cathedral met with Mayor Wise and council staff with a proposal for combining the earthquake upgrade of the cathedral with a new library. Certainly plenty of space and parking. The proposal was costed. It included the cost of a get-out clause for the Napier City Council regarding the building contract for the new library and civic centre. It was dismissed as far too down the track with the new build to be considered. Wasn't followed up. The costings were considerably less than the new build in Station Road, and this is a point that I want to make, would have retained and restored a building that the Napier City Council has listed as a Heritage 1 building. Now, for more details of this, it's documented in an article in Stuff by Marty Sharp on the 9th of October 2024. He had approached the council about this meeting and was told it didn't happen, but they came back to say, yes, there was an informal discussion, but it never went any further than that. Oh, I don't know what else to say there. So I'm going to keep this brief because I know there's going to be a lot of speakers on this issue. So in summing up, our temporary library at the MTG, it is inconvenient. It is convenient, I can see, for the museum. It is inconvenient for the Library Trust, but it should remain as is until a timely closure date for transitioning to a permanent Napier library. And for me, a library is a heart of a community, and I urge you all who don't go there regularly to go and see it and see people there accessing resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. I'll open up for any questions. No. Thank you for taking the time to come and speak to us today.
Yes,
it's much
and
appreciated.
I do urge you to read that article and Stuff because I think it's interesting, and I think there are issues that haven't been followed up by you all, really, as a council. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I see we have Tanya Wright with us now from the Hawke's Bay Museum Trust. I'll invite you to come up to speak to us. Welcome.
Good morning, councillors and the Mayor and officers and staff of the council. Thank you for receiving our submission. You should have received a copy of the submission with a letter that was sent to the Mayor regarding the Hawke's Bay Museum Trust's feelings about the closure of the library. So to begin, though, I'd like to thank you all for my reappointment to the Hawke's Bay Museums Trust as your representative, and for the confidence that you've shown in me by doing so. I really do appreciate it. The museum is something that is very dear to my heart. And I also want to congratulate the council and all of those who have been involved in the resolution of the storage space on the new facility to host our magnificent collection. And if any of you have seen the building, it's looking absolutely stunning. And we also, as a trust, are looking forward to the conclusion of the governance review as the next stage of work with that joint committee with Hastings, and to move forward from there as well. So thank you for the work that you've done to date. It is really appreciated that this situation with our collection has been resolved. As a former councillor, I do understand the difficulty that you have making decisions sometimes, and the timing of things can be quite hard to work out. And you will have seen from the letter that, well, I do have a letter here from Bill Dalton, actually. It's a very old letter from 2017 that clearly stated to the trust that this move of the library into the museum space was going to be very temporary, and the suggestion was 3 years. And then, after we grumbled about that, we were told it would be about 5 years. We're now at 8 years since the library moved into the museum building. And it's not an ideal situation for the museum. I want to take a bit of a broader picture around that now, because many of you travel, and museums are vital to the culture of and the history of a community. Travellers, when they go to a new place, often go to a museum as their first port of call, so that they can learn about a region and hear the stories of that region and the artefacts from that region's history, to get a better feel for it. And so museums are really important from that respect to visitors and also to locals alike. It's a window to the region and to its history. And we have a fabulous collection. I don't think many people realise, and I'm hoping that with it in the new building and that it being more accessible to people, that they will understand what a fantastic collection Hawke's Bay has. And it needs to be available, and it needs to be displayed and shown. And while the library's in that space cannot be used to do that. And I feel that it's quite a travesty, actually. I mean, we have probably one of the best textile and fashion collections in New Zealand, and we hardly ever get to see any of it as a city and as visitors to our region. And I think some of our collection is of national significance, and it should be displayed. So while I understand the difficulty of the situation that you're in, the Museums Trust is asking that you look at, if you do shut the library, that you don't store books in there for 2 years. That is a waste of valuable museum space. That you look at exiting the books out of the museum by the 20th or 30th of December, or giving you 6 months to move out, and then that gives us another year, up to a year, to restore the space back to a museum and start to open it back up to the public. Because this is the problem for us. Another 2 years is 10 years. Then it'll take us another year to get the space restored and displays set in there. So we're looking at 11 years out, 11 years of us having literally half our space not available to the public or to the collection. So that is our plea to you. This has gone on for a long time. I think the trust, the Museum Trust, has been very patient in all respects. But we're saying to you that if you do shut the library, please don't store books in there for 2 years. Let us have our space back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Are there any questions for Tanya? Councillor Bogue.
Thank you, Tanya. Yeah, I appreciate your concern. The officer's comment, I don't know whether you've seen the officer's comments in response to your submission, mentions that if the books were removed from the MTG now and stored elsewhere, the cost of that move and storage would be a new cost for the council. And if not accessible for use, the cost of removing books for circulation would be significant and additional. Would there be a cost of actually restoring exhibits to that space?
Yes, there is a cost of restoring the space, but I was assured by staff that that was within budget. They had space and budget to start work on restoring that space and getting it ready to use again. So, yeah. And I do understand that there is a cost, but there's a significant cost to the museum and to the community by not having that space available as a museum.
Good question, Councillor Bogue. We might seek some more information on that. Any further questions? No?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tanya. Much appreciated. For our speakers who have arrived since we opened, just to let you know, you have 10 minutes in total for your presentation. A bell will ring at 7 minutes, just to let you know. You may want to wrap up to leave a little bit of time for any questions that councillors might have. And I'd like to invite our next speaker, Penelope McComb. Very warm welcome, Penelope.
Good morning. Obviously, my name is Penelope McComb. I'm a ratepayer and a registered teacher employed by Te Aho o Te Kura Punamo, formerly known as the Correspondence School of Aotearoa, and we are the largest school in New Zealand. I am the senior biology teacher in this region, and I'm speaking in a private capacity in support of the educational facilities and programs offered by the staff at the National Aquarium. I have had the privilege of taking part in many of these activities, all of which have been valued and enjoyed by our rangatahi. And I would like to explain to you what these activities mean to my students. So Te Kura is in a unique position. We are a school without classrooms, teaching students who learn remotely and in isolation from each other. The Aquarium's educational programs provide us with the opportunity to bring students together to participate in activities that are specifically aligned to curriculum outcomes. So I want to point out that the picture that was chosen to represent the aquarium on the online form shows a group of senior students examining marine species on the Ahuriri foreshore. So if you were wondering if anyone noticed what this might have actually meant, those students are not just turning over rocks. They are likely to be carrying out the fieldwork necessary to complete Standard 91158, which is quite a complex 3-credit Level 2 NCEA biology standard. To book a suitable time slot for this field trip, you have to get in early. There are a large number of schools that participate during the warmer months. The aquarium teaching staff assist with species identification, explain adaptations and interspecific relationships, and last year helped our students identify invasive seaweeds on the foreshore. So I have 3 further trips to the aquarium planned for local student groups this year. Each one will involve hands-on activities carried out in the aquarium's wet lab facilities. With the support of the education staff, my Year 12 students will be dissecting fish, gathering, observing and documenting diverse gas exchange adaptations, and using microscopes to make biological drawings of paramecium, which are a unicellular ciliate species that the aquarium sources for us. In 3 weeks' time, my Year 13 students will be spending the day in the aquarium laboratory carrying out independent investigations related to the response of water fleas, Daphnia, to external stimuli. This is another very popular activity with local schools. We hope to be able to save some money by sharing the purchase of the Daphnia population with Napier Boys. one of my students is driving from Tauranui for the opportunity to take part in this activity, which is unique to this area in New Zealand for the biology standard. So these experiences are of enormous advantage to my senior students, but I really would like to take the time to speak up for those other students that benefit through these school trips to the aquarium, particularly the younger students and those families who can't afford to pay the visitor entry fees. And I'm sure there are very, very many families in the region in that position who have youngsters whose only opportunity to visit the aquarium would be through a school trip. So I have seen a few of these little groups gathering in the foyer at the aquarium, and it's delightful, really, just to watch the excitement in their faces. A little bit different with the senior students, but you know, to see them in the aquarium space, looking at the penguins, looking at the stingrays, the giant shark jaws, and our wonderful turtle, they don't see what adults see. They don't see what the council sees, perhaps a loss-making liability and ageing infrastructure. So thank you for the opportunity to speak today. But in closing, I would like the council to consider that to many ratepayers, parents and members of the teaching profession, the aquarium is our wharekura taonga. It's our treasured place of learning. Its closure would be a tremendous loss to the scientific community, the teaching community and the wider public. So I would hope that there is some means of continued support for these programs that can be found during this period of ongoing uncertainty for the aquarium. Kia tika, kia pono. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Penelope. Open up for any questions from councillors. Councillor Brown.
Kia ora. Thank you for your submission, Penelope. Just wondering, so I don't know if you've seen the results of the consultation, but it's very, very evenly split amongst the community what they want done with it. If we were going to make a decision about the future of the aquarium, who do you think needs to be at the table to shape the vision of what we need as a region?
Well, I don't speak for the aquarium staff, but I have met them in my professional capacity over the years, and I've found them to be the most dedicated group of professionals, marine biologists there. I think they would deserve a voice. And I don't know, maybe some of our students, if any were willing. We have had students volunteer at the aquarium. They just find it a fascinating and peaceful place for many who have severe anxiety. Even going to the aquarium is quite a stretch for some of them, meeting new people, but there's something about that calming place. We've also had students end up working there. So, yeah, staff, the aquarium.
Brilliant. Thank you. Yeah.
Any further questions? Thank you very, very much, Penelope, for coming to speak to us today. I would like to now invite Max Patmoy to present. Welcome, Max.
I'll sit on the boys' side.
The floor is yours. Do we need to press play?
Thank you, Ms. Mayor Kirsten, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, nerves. Pandaland is set to transform Marine Parade into a biodiversity hub and a cross-cultural collaboration between the City of Napier and the People's Republic of China. It has two large outside panda pens, a cafe/restaurant, a shop, and as you can see, two beautiful panda bears, which all in all will make visiting Pandaland a memorable experience. Pandaland is fully funded. Our focus is on education and conservation, and we'll be enriching the local community and putting Napier back on the international tourist map. So, councillors, the decision's in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max. I will open for any questions from councillors. Councillor Gregg.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. Who would retain ownership of the pandas?
The People's Republic of China own them. They're leased to us on an annual basis.
And could the Chinese government recall the pandas if they wished?
We have a contract with them. They haven't done that in the history of leasing pandas. When they want their pandas back, they wait for the lease to expire, and the lease would either be 10 years or 15 years.
And just one further question. What kind of entry fee would you envisage for people to go and see the pandas?
I'm thinking at the moment, and we've just done a feasibility study, which I might say is 149 pages, thinking at the moment that it'll be $60 and $30. We're pitching this as a quality attraction and realising that we want to put our money back into conservation.
Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Pat, for the presentation. I know this will receive a lot of community interest, which I think it already has when it was first mooted, and so I wonder, for the purpose of those who may be interested, could you clarify and run through a few aspects of the proposal? For instance, what is the decision you're asking of council? Are you looking for a right to lease reserve land? What relationship, if any, is there to the aquarium? And when you say it is funded by whom?
Okay, firstly, we're looking at when and if the aquarium's demolished and council's looking to put another facility there. We're looking at cutting a very good deal, like a penny rental per year on that site. Sorry, what was the funding question?
So who is it funded by?
We'll be looking for benefactors, donors, 20 donors each to put $1 million in a year each, and it will be repaid with an extra 10%. There's 347,000 millionaires in New Zealand, believe it or not, and we see funding as a very small problem. We think that people will be lining up to back this, and if worse comes to the worst, I think we'll find benefactors in China.
So, thank you, through you, Mayor Wise. Just to clarify, when you say fully funded, you mean hopefully fully funded?
No, fully funded.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I'm a businessman. You don't start a business up if something's 90% funded. We don't go ahead unless we've got the 20 million.
Thank you.
If I could just say, the 20 million will be put into a trust account, probably managed by Napier Council, and it'll be paid back to us as the building progresses. If that makes sense.
I'm not sure that we would be putting ourselves in a position to manage the financing for a private
No,
enterprise,
I'm just saying
sure
a
you'd have a robust-
charitable trust
yeah.
mightn't be the council, might be somewhere else.
Yeah, thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Thank you so very much, Max, for coming to
Thank you all.
present to us today. I'd like to welcome Joseph Wilson to present, please. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Wise and councillors, for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here to talk about the proposed interim closure of the Napier Public Library, and I'm advocating for the status quo. I have made this submission as a private individual, and all views expressed are my own personal views. A couple of you might recognise me from where I work, but to maintain some privacy, I prefer not to disclose that while we're live streaming, but I'm happy to discuss that another time with any of you. Public libraries are an essential community service. They are not nice-to-haves or just buildings full of books. They are lifelines for our community and one of the bedrocks of our democracy. I would argue that Napier Library is Napier City Council's key hub for community wellbeing in central Napier. It provides all kinds of support to many vulnerable groups, things like supported access to the internet, emailing and word processing for the digitally vulnerable. It offers a vital printing and scanning service to those who can't afford them at home. The library offers a safe, warm space for the homeless, a place for them to charge their phones and be spoken to with respect. The library is a place where isolated seniors can go and have a chat with somebody, sometimes the only face-to-face chat they've had for days. A place where travellers can print their CVs on the spot to look for work in Napier's many wonderful small businesses. A place where our unemployed can get some help to draft a CV and apply for a job. A place where people can educate themselves about sensitive topics they are too scared to explore anywhere else, including online. The library is also used as a safe space for families facing challenges to reconnect through supervised visitations. It's a place for exhausted mothers and their young children to seek some respite from the grind at home without having to spend any money. And a place where the disabled know they will be welcomed as equals. In short, Napier Library is a beacon of community spirit, self-betterment and inclusion. Everyone is equal in the library, whether you are a rough sleeper or a high-paid CEO. Now, you guys know all this. You've allocated a large sum to the construction of a new library. I get it. So I'm not going to argue that you don't care about libraries. That's demonstrably false to me. But what I am arguing is that the proposed 2-year closure is a contravention of Council's responsibility to provide the essential community service that a public library is to all in the community. This interim closure disproportionately affects Napier's most vulnerable: the elderly, the disabled, people without cars, the homeless, the many without the time or the means to travel the 9 Ks to Taradale. Please understand that this closure is an exclusion of these people. It will be very difficult to fill the gap with expanded library van services or click and collect systems because they cannot cater to those that rely on Napier Library's physical space. And what are we going to do if the new library isn't ready in 2 years? Because construction is very unpredictable at times. Now, I'm a ratepayer. Last year's 20% or almost 20% rate hike was a little prickly, but I bring this up because I appreciate the financial pressure this council is under. Finding money for projects and infrastructure when so many of us are in a cost of living crisis and still recovering from the 2020 floods, the pandemic, and the cyclone isn't easy. But by your own admission, Mayor Wise, and I'm sorry to single you out, but closing Napier Library for 2 years is not going to create a significant rate saving for residents. To quote you from an April RNZ article titled "Leave the Library Alone," and I quote, "It's not a huge saving. It's to the tune of about 0.5 to 0.6% of rates. But it's a reflection that we really have worked hard to find every single dollar of savings we can find." End quote. Now, I'm no accountant, but this equates to just under 42 cents per week for the average rateable unit, which is $21.60 per year. That saving feels so small in relation to the social cost associated with the library's closure. And it's only a short-term saving, because surely that money will be added back into rates once the new library opens. I get that every cent counts, but why take away one of the few remaining free community hubs in Napier when so many residents are feeling the cost of living pinch? I'll conclude by quoting an opinion piece supporting Napier Library from the Hawke's Bay Today in February titled "Library Closure Idea Speaks Volumes," and I quote, "You can't save the village by destroying the village." End quote. Napier is already down a post office and a news agency, and let's not mention the hospital and what's on the horizon for the cathedral. If we add the library to the list, even if it's just for a couple of years, Napier risks becoming a beautiful Art Deco shell, stunning on the outside, but missing the heart that makes it a true community. But by keeping Napier Library open, you can help ensure our city remains a place where our community can continue to rebuild and thrive after the shockwaves of the last 5 years. Please make that choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Open up for any questions from councillors. Councillor Brown.
Kia ora. Thank you, Joseph. That was a very moving submission. Just wondering, from your conversations with people and your commentary around it's about $20 for the average ratepayer, do you feel that the community are willing to pay that to keep to pay that extra to keep the library open?
I'm probably looking at that through a biased lens with the people that I speak to, but yes, I do believe that they would be willing.
Thank you.
Councillor McGrath.
Yes, just through you, Mayor Wise, can we just, get some clarification? That's not won't be extra money, is it? That's money that's already currently being paid.
It's in the existing budgets, yes.
Yeah, it's not on top of. Right, mate.
It is on top of our proposed rates increase that we've consulted on, yes.
Current cost in there now, though.
Yes. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Joseph, for your submission. It was very well made. One of the things we've struggled with is increasing costs in the temporary library space. So I think you probably saw some of the commentary around, I think, health and safety concerns from staff at a stage where some were not prepared to enter the building, similar complaints from people using the space. And so I just wonder, around the existing cost, part of our thing was uncertainty around how that may increase if we were to continue opening. Do you see there being a line there, or is it at any cost in your view?
It's a good question. There is a line when it concerns health and safety, but I don't believe that the library is near that line. I believe at the open house, the security issues around some of the antisocial behaviour was raised as a reason for the closure, which I do understand, but I don't see that those concerns will disappear with Te Aka. I know that you floated a design concept called SEPTED, which, just to paraphrase what you said that night, I think you said that SEPTED would negate the need for security guards at Te Aka to some extent. I'm not sure if I'm quoting you correctly there, but I guess I would like some more clarification on what that looks like, because I don't understand it.
Thank you for your answer.
Councillor Crystal.
Through the Mayor, thank you for your presentation. Do you think the Napier Library, if it was to stay open, would still function okay if it was on reduced days? I know it's dropped Saturday at the moment, but if it was 4 or 5 days, would that work?
Yes, I do think so.
Councillor Bogue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. I just have a question, I think, for staff, basically, just to clarify how much per year would the increase in rates actually be for retaining the library where it is now for the next 2 years, firstly? And secondly, if that rates increase was brought in, would it then be removed at the end of the 2 years when council moves into Te Aka?
If we make note of those questions and we can have those brought back to us as part of deliberations, Councillor Bogue. I think off the top of my head it was about 637,000 was the proposed savings.
Per ratepayer.
I think Joseph said it was something like 42 cents.
Per week, I think it was $21.60 per rateable unit per annum. Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Any further questions? Thank you very much for your very well thought out submission, Joseph.
Thank you.
It's much appreciated.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, and now I would like to invite Lynn Anderson, Save the Doctorals.
It's not the first one. Let's see.
Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, I'm Lynn from Save the Doctorals Hawke's Bay, the Napier Zones. Thank you for inviting us to submit to your annual plan. This morning I'd like to tell you about how we are hoping the Dotterel project might look in future years and discuss the possibility of further protection areas for the nesting birds at 2 different locations. We understand it's difficult times and that everything is money. We would certainly be planning to help to contribute to such plans should they eventuate. How do I get the next slide? There. Sorry. Firstly, in 2022, the council erected this fence at the Bayview West Shore nesting area. This is how it looked when it was first erected. Gabriel wasn't very kind to it, but we have been maintaining it. Overall, we think it's been a great success. It provides undisturbed haven, free from vehicles, fires, people, and usually mostly dogs. However, it doesn't protect against rats and cats, but we do have DOC 200 traps in the area. There was a higher percentage of fledglings per nest from this area. It's done wonders for raising awareness with the general public that the birds are nesting on our shores. And also we've started to plant some ground cover type natives as specifically advised. So it also provides protection for native plants. So there's good evidence that protected areas are beneficial to breeding success. It's essential to have good signage on any protected areas so people realise what the protection is about. And at the moment we are cordoning off nests. We use 30 metres of rope It's always difficult to know whether to bring attention to a nest or not. Feedback from the public generally say they like the cordons, they know where the nests are, and they also help create awareness. There's another one at the West Shore area. With more permanent protection areas, there are various options. This shows a roped-off area down Aramoana Beach. The advantage of roped areas is that it can be taken down in the off-season. There's another example. It's actually becoming increasingly common to see protected areas on beaches. It's something Napier is not necessarily very used to. Sometimes they're protecting shore nesting birds of various species and sometimes to protect sand dunes. This is a fence similar to the one we have at West Shore. It's on Waiheke Island. It's protecting New Zealand dotterels, and that's the same fence from the other end. There are various options available for roping off certain areas. And this is a sign quite commonly used up the Auckland Way. I think it's a good one. It can be on every post or hanging from the ropes. Now this is, for the first time this last season, we GPS the nests all down from Marine Parade right down to the far end of Awatoto Beach. So one area we were thinking we'd like to protect is, you'll see the map on the left. This is from the middle car park, the Beach Reserve car park, where they used for the roadworks. And you can see the new roundabout in the middle of the map on the left. The map on the right is a more detailed area, a more detailed map of the same area. We're wondering about a post and wire fence in this area. It's mostly out of the way. How long it would come down to, we're not sure. We had 11 nests in that area last season. Only 2 or 3 hatched. The nesting success rate down this far end of Awatoto Beach is really poor. It's not good at all. Yeah, so that's a mostly out of the way area. The other area we were looking at is what we call the aquarium zone, or part of the aquarium zone. The map on the left shows the aquarium about in the middle. You'd see they don't like nesting between the aquarium and the Spirit of Napier. There was just one nest there, but there were 14 nests from, this is over a 4 or 5 month period, from the Spirit of Napier down to the piles of gravel. That is a more public area. It has high disturbance. Not one of those nests hatched. There was total failure, although there was a rat problem at the beginning of the season, which we've hopefully got on top of. We feel this area would be more suited to a smaller roped-off area, so the ropes could be removed in the off-season. Whatever happens at the aquarium, it seems it's going to be an educational centre, a place of learning for conservation and the environment, and we wondered if a permanent little area close to that would fit in well with whatever's planned for the aquarium. If there was to be a protected area or areas, they would have to be done in the off-season in March, April, May or June. The earliest birds start to arrive back to the nesting sites in around July, and the first nests are from about mid-August. So we're out of time for this year, but I'd also feel much happier if we had one more year GPSing the nests, and then I think just 1 year of evidence of GPS nests is not really enough evidence, but if we had 2, that would be a little more sound, and we'd be able to compare the 2 seasons. I've talked to Mana Ahuriri, and I've also talked to the Skink Squad meeting about our thoughts for the future. We just feel that the far end of Awatoto Beach is a little bit sad, subject to fires, etc. And we wondered if an upgrade of car parks in that area would help raise the mana, if you like, of that whole area. But we see that the beach access car park has actually been recently resurfaced. I think it would be a shame to lose the birds from Napier's beaches. These birds are endemic breeders to New Zealand. They've been nesting here for thousands of years. It's really looking after our own. We don't know how old the birds are who are nesting here. There could be suddenly a crash. So that's about all from me.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
That's not me.
Are there any questions for Lynn? Councillor Bogue.
Just thank you very much, Lynn, for you and your group looking after these little creatures. I just wondered, you might find it really helpful to look at the officers' comments, which you may not have seen in response to your submission. I'm sure you will receive it, but there's some really positive suggestions there.
Thank you. Is that in those printed documents?
I think so. It looks like this. But yeah, they will respond to you.
And on that note, one of the officers' questions you actually answered in your presentation, they were seeking evidence if the fencing in place currently had actually been successful, in which you obviously you just advised us that there were more successful fledglings in that fenced area that we already have in West Shore there. So thank you for providing us with that information. Much appreciated.
Right.
Oh, Councillor Brown, you're not off the hook yet.
Just looking for clarification around sort of what's the ask? Are you looking for permission to put these fences up? Would you like?
Well, yes, I guess it's permission. I guess it's starting a conversation to what our thoughts are for the future. Yes, just it would be certainly be nice to have further areas of protection and down this. I'm never sure which way I'm pointing, but down Awatoto.
And we assisted with funding for the fencing that's in place in West Shore. So is it also seeking funding to assist with putting another fenced area?
Well, that would be very nice, but we'd certainly look to contribute towards that as well when we had a firmer plan.
Thank you. Yeah. And actually just a question for staff to note, because you may not have the answer now, just a reminder of how we actually funded the fence that we put in a year or so ago. From memory, it may have come from Parks and Reserves, but it did come from Parks and Reserves. So we did manage to find something in an existing budget. So.
And that was in 2022, so it has been in there
3 years ago.
For 3 seasons. So we've got some good data there.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor Brosnan.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for all the work you're doing. I think our environment needs champions, and you are certainly holding up that mantle. I really appreciate it, as I know Council does. My question is just around your access to funding. I know it's sometimes hard for small volunteer groups to sort of access some of these things, but I was looking at the DOC Community Fund in particular that makes a lot of sense for the work you're doing around contestable funding, as well as the Predator Free New Zealand Trust funding. Have you considered seeking funding from any of those sort of core environmental funds?
We've considered for this year, well, I haven't actually heard yet if we've been successful, but last year it was the Biodiversity Hawke's Bay Contestable Fund. And that's, yes, we hope to be successful again this season, but there are different environmental funding, as you've suggested, available. We've also had a fundraising opportunity suggested to us, actually, which I'll be looking into. Yes, so.
Right.
Sorry.
Councillor Bogue.
Could I just add to that? It would be worth your while also applying to the Keep Napier Beautiful grants. We have grants of $500, sometimes $1,000 for projects which are the kaupapas keeping Napier beautiful in some form or another. So they're on the council website.
Maxine. Yes. Yes, I'm not sure what the public reaction would be. We'd have to be careful with that. But yeah, people don't like change, but then I find they settle down.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lynn. Right, I would now like to invite George Streeter to present to us, please. Welcome, George. Thank you for your patience. Good morning.
I'm one of these irresponsible people that want to keep the library going. I don't really need the microphone. I'm as deaf as a post, so if you're going to ask questions, you'll have to speak up. Now, I'm going to say what I say because some time ago I saw a dear old lady with a walker coming up that ramp very slowly to get books from the library. Why? Any 84 or 86-year-olds on the council?
Not quite. Not yet.
How sad. It's like this. My wife, from early on in her life, is a chronic arthritic. Despite that, she spent 24 years in New Guinea, living in the jungles, delivering babies. She's had a cancer operation, 2 growths removed, arterial fibrillation, struggles to breathe. So when your magnificent new library is built, there's a possibility we'll both be dead. We won't be able to enjoy it. Her big problem is she suffers from insomnia. What it means is she's awake at night, and what's her only comfort? Books. She loves to read. And it's no use saying, well, why doesn't she use Kindle? She doesn't want to. She loves to hold a book in her hand, and I've seen her sitting in a chair. She goes to sleep with the book open. She's been reading. She'll wake up and read some more. Or when she's lying in bed. She's one of the very frequent clients of the library. It's important to her to have books to read. And I honestly believe it's important for everybody of our age group. How many in their 80s are going to last 2 years? We don't know. Cancer, heart attacks. I'm a diabetic. We cannot guarantee we're going to be alive 2 years from now. What does it really cost the council to keep that library open? Now look, we don't need a new monumental library. The little one that we've got is more than adequate. Let's face it, that building that's being demolished, somebody had it built years ago. And this generation is, what are they doing? Pulling it down to build something bigger, better, so-called earthquake-proof. But you build it now, and 40 or 50 years from now, they'll be busting it down again. What do you build? What you've got to realise, and if you'd like to know that, there's a poem by Percy Bysshe Shelley called Ozymandias. Hands up those who've ever heard of it. Good. What did Ozymandias do? He built a great big something, and now where's Ozymandias' statue?
Gone.
A wreck in the desert sands. Oh, I'm glad to see there are 2 people who actually read books and like poetry. Of the councillors present, how many of you are members of the library and get books out? Well, why on earth do you want to wreck it? Why do you want to make it so difficult for people, old people, to have to travel to Taradale to get books? I admit my wife does ride her bike. She used to be able to go a long way on it. She still likes to ride it, but she can't go that far. To go to Taradale to get books. What does it cost to keep that little library you've got open? I understand that $400,000 is going to be spent promoting tourism. Am I right or wrong?
450.
I'm right. Spend it on the library, unless some people are thinking about promoting tourism overseas. Trips? I don't know. I'm no expert. I condemn nobody. I've got no right to sit in judgment on anybody because they'll sit in judgment on me. It's a good biblical principle. Judge not, lest ye be judged. But let's keep that little library open for the elderly, the sick, who like to get books to read when they can't sleep at night. You might say, why doesn't the doctor give them sleeping pills? But the doctors will tell you they only work for a little while, then your body gets used to them and you're still wide awake. So please, keep the library as it is. Okay, it's fine with it. And I want to say this. Okay, if you're worried about money, I spend 1 day a week volunteering for hospice. I'm prepared to give a day as a volunteer to keep that library open. Thank you very much for listening to me. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, George, and thank you for your generous offer to help staff and volunteer the library. I will open up for any questions
Do
from
read
councillors.
Ozymandias by Percy Bush Shelley.
Yeah. Oh, before you disappear, we just want to check if there's any questions for you. We just want to check if there's any questions for you before you disappear.
But please speak up. I'm as deaf as a post.
Okay, just as Councillor Crystal asked earlier, would you see that the City Library being open 4 or 5 days a week would be an acceptable?
Yeah, I'd accept 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, fine.
Yep.
We just collect a load of books for the weekend. My wife usually gets 6, 7, 8, 9 books out at a time, and she reads them in a week. If it can be kept open for 5 days, fine. But don't force everybody elderly to go through to Taradale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. Thank you. Our next submitter is online. We have Jackie Lloyd from the New Zealand Cruise Association. Very warm welcome, Jackie.
Kia ora, thank you very much for having me, Mayor Wise and councillors. Very nice to be here. I'm actually dialing in from Marlborough in the top of the South Island, and it's a bit rainy, so I hope the connection stays.
Last words.
Frozen.
Frozen.
You shouldn't have said that.
Okay. Oh, we lost you for a bit there, but let's give it another go and see if we can keep the
Rainy in
connection.
Marlborough, so apologies for that. Can I jump in and use the presentation? I think that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Yep. Yes, it should all be ready for you to.
Wonderful.
There we
I'll
go.
turn my camera off to make sure that we keep the connection.
Great.
There we go. Look, thank you very much. Just first up, New Zealand Cruise Association, we're a membership organisation and our role is to advocate and promote New Zealand as a cruise destination. And I'm just submitting here in regards to the eyesight and our position to keep option 3, maintaining the status quo of the Napier eyesight as it operates. Just to quickly cover off too, before we go through too far in, and I don't know if this is going to move for me. Here we go. And one more. Just in regards to the consultation document, there was an error within that in the front page. Cruise actually contributed 89.6 million to the Hawke's Bay economy in the 23-24 season, not the 30
Technology is great when it's working. Yeah.
Has that started again?
We can hear you now, yes.
Oh, sorry, where did I get up to? Is this going to be a bit tricky for us to do this?
You were just, the economic importance.
Yeah, economic importance, and the consultation document stated it was 30 million to the Hawke's Bay economy. It was actually 89.6, supporting 657 jobs and 26.9 million in wages. So quite an important part to the regional economy. The visits for cruise ships over this last season or this upcoming season is 61. With around 100,000 passengers that will be coming through Napier's region. And I'm actually not going to use the presentation because I think that's pausing me. I'll just talk to this at the same time. The way that passengers experience Napier is that it's sort of a third. A third of the passengers will pre-book on shore excursions with the cruise line. A third will book independently, often through the eyesight, and then a third will need day-to-day information. And that all those services are provided by the eyesight there in Napier. I'm sure you've all been down to Napier on a very, very busy cruise day down at the Napier eyesight to see their effective operations. We can have up to 4,000 passengers coming off a ship at once, and they're delivered directly to the eyesight doors. The eyesight manages the passenger flows on those days. They give information and guidance to independent travellers, and they also facilitate bookings and local sales to local tourism operators. The eyesight in Napier is perfectly positioned, a very, very short shuttle ride from the port. It's also got lots of space for shuttle parking and also great parking for operators as well, for a lot of the tourism operators that go through there. And without an eyesight there to manage that visitor flow, you will find that the quality and the safety of the visitor experience is at risk, which is vitally important to the way that passengers experience the region and also encouraging cruise lines to keep visiting the region. So the key factors that attract visitation into to a port, into a region around its strategic location, which is Napier is perfectly positioned between Tauranga and Wellington. It's the infrastructure that the port provides. It's the cost.
Uh-oh. It's going so well.
There we go. It's the infrastructure that the port provides, and it's the cost that the port facilities, but it's also the destination appeal, the coordinated relationships between the RTO, the port, the eyesight, and the business association, and also relying heavily on passenger ratings, the experiences that the passengers have on the ground. And the eyesight's integral into that passenger rating and coordinated relationship section. So the port works on everything inside the port gates. In Napier, the eyesight is really integral in managing what happens outside the port gates. And while the Napier Port has started to increase their attraction and visibility for cruise lines, we need to make sure that the destination is managed really well, and that is what the eyesight does alongside the RTO and the Business Association. I travel the country all the time during the cruise season, and I'm visiting multiple ports around the regions and around the country. Napier is held up as the leading model for cruise destination management, and that is critical to that is the eyesight. When anyone asks me in other ports, which port should we look at on how do we manage cruise days, I'm consistently directing them to Napier and to the Napier eyesight to show them how it should be done. And our concern as an organisation is that if we downgrade or remove the eyesight from its location, that's going to result in reduction in visitor satisfaction, which will actually then in turn mean that the cruise lines will not want to visit.
We lost her again.
So the importance of the eyesight is to make sure that they are managing visitation and passenger experience and safety. So, look, I think the operational reality from the eyesight in Napier is that if we're wanting to bring in a private operator to run the eyesights, that realistically cannot work. The only locations where private owners have run eyesights with a profitability is when they are in high volume year-round destinations like Auckland and like Queenstown. Visitor kiosks are another option, of course, but they can't replace that personal welcome that eyesight staff provide, their problem solving that they do, but particularly more importantly on cruise days is around the destination management and flow of passengers through the region and sales conversion, actually talking to a passenger that gets off, asking them what they want to do for the day, and then selling them product that is on-sold to Napier operators and hospitality providers around the region. So eyesights aren't just a cost, they're a critical piece of infrastructure, particularly when around enhancing visitor experience, driving regional and economic benefit.
Do anything about it. See if she comes back on.
I think they need Nova.
So that's enhancing the visitor experience, driving regional economic benefit, and then supporting effective cruise and visitor management. We really recommend to retain the current model of eyesights to protect cruise tourism's contribution to Napier and its visitor reputation. Without it, there's a real risk of reduced passenger satisfaction, which will in turn result in lower port calls to Napier, which is something that none of us want, I think, from an economic point of view. So apologies for the bad Wi-Fi, but thank you very much for your consideration and your support of the Napier Eyesight, Napier Tourism, Hospitality and Retailers, and also New Zealand's cruise sector. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Jackie. Hopefully we can keep this going until we get any questions that councillors might have for you. Open up. Councillor Crystal.
Thanks, Jackie. I noticed the number you've said, 61 next year. I have been a tour operator. It was 92 about 3 years ago. So obviously New Zealand is not becoming the destination it once was for cruise ships to come here. Why is that?
Yes, and it's quite a big bit of work to go through to explain it. But yes, we are seeing a reduction of these last 2 years. We've been working with Napier Port offshore at Seatrade in Miami, speaking with cruise lines to encourage cruise lines to come back to New Zealand and into Napier. We are envisaging an increase again by 27-28 and onwards. Globally, cruise is growing. This last season was 37 million cruise passengers around the world. 42 million expected by 2028. So we're working really strongly to bring ourselves back up to that 92 port calls for Napier and higher if the region would like to look at some higher numbers as well.
Councillor Price.
Thank you. Just a quick question. If we were to move the hub where cruise passengers were dropped off, would you move the eyesight with it?
Yes, I think that would be absolutely important. So wherever the passengers go, it needs to be outside a visitor centre and an eyesight, because it's managing those passengers that are getting off the day with no current plans and also providing them direction on where they need with the focus of trying to convert a sale. If they're coming into the eyesight asking for directions, the eyesight staff know how to sell and will be looking to upsell and get them to purchase a ticket to something and possibly even buy anything further, which is really important. Dropping them at a hub where no one is there to welcome them or do that sale, you'll lose the sales conversion and have passengers wandering around a little bit lost.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No. Thank you so much for your time today, Jackie.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up we have Alan Peterson. Very warm welcome, Alan.
Hello all. I'll be fairly short and brief, but just on that last subject, I was at a port meeting about a week ago, and the reason the cruise liners are struggling to come to New Zealand is because of the Suez Canal situation. They can't go through the Suez Canal. And also defouling these ships in New Zealand. There's no facility to defoul them unless they do it out at sea, way out at sea. So those are the two main reasons. So it's a big problem. Not for us to solve, I don't think. My submission, put my glasses on, is pretty brief. A future of the National Aquarium of New Zealand. I think Napier City Council doesn't need to get a name as the wreckers of buildings in Napier. The option of demolishing the building, I think, is ridiculous, and it has a unique character. The guy, the dear previous mayor who was instrumental in getting it built, Alan Dick, would be horrified. Another option is to just keep it vacant until it can be utilised in the future. And the council has plenty of options to build other sites along Marine Parade Strip. It's not subject to erosion, by the way. It wasn't long ago when council applied to the PGF to upgrade it into a grandiose aquarium. Didn't get over the line. Maybe it could be turned into an earthquake memorial with a real shaker of any other earthquake in New Zealand and worldwide. I'm sure there's some seismic engineers that could work that out. That would be quite an experience that I would go to as well. After all, that's what shaped Napier in 1931 and onwards, and a reason for its Art Deco heritage as a primary tourist attraction. So that building can be used for other purposes. Don't pull it down. The future of the eyesight, I mean, I think its position is pretty critical, and we've heard a very good presentation. And if you're going to do something about the golf, mini golf, it seems to me that you could use the mini golf for either expanding that location or even using it for parking of buses. So, you know, I think if you put it anywhere else in the cities, there'll be problems with buses and traffic and pedestrians. Leave it where it is. Me and my partner use it frequently. It's also the best place to book the Milford Track. If you want to go on the Milford Track, go and book it there. They know how it works because they're an agent. The future of the Pātū mini golf, well, it's not essential that it remains where it is. It could be maybe get closer to the swimming pools. I don't know, but there will be another site it could go to. Future of the Faraday Museum. Recently, my partner and I, we were down in the South Island and went to Nelson and went to the Brook Waimārama Valley Sanctuary in Nelson. And it was very, very impressive, but it was set up by a independent trust that was supported by the council, and they had a huge input from volunteers as well. A very impressive facility. It's the largest sanctuary in the South Island, so it's a great model. Then we go on to the Napier Library. There's plenty being said about that. I agree with a lot of the comments. And the other thing I'd be very wary of is major building projects never finish on time. Maybe the very few of them. So I think the closing of the library should be closely aligned to when the space will be available in the new building. The Redcliffe transfer station fees, really it's whatever it takes as it is required. And having some experience with building houses, I am continually amazed at how most builders seem to be oblivious to pre-sorting their rubbish. When you go to a skip on a building site, you would not believe that everything that goes onto the site gets put in a dumpster off to the dump, and all mixed up. Some of it's probably asbestos, all sorts of stuff, and it's a disgrace. So it should be a condition of a building consent for rubbish from demolition and building, for that rubbish to be sorted on site. Or better management of such waste would make a significant reduction in landfill volumes. So that's something that could make a really big difference. So if you don't believe me, go and have a look at the skips around a building site. And for many years, I have had a worm farm. I said to my partner, Christine, one day, we live on Napier Hill, I said, I've bought a farm. It was a worm farm. It's about this big, it's got 3 containers, and we hardly put any of our rubbish, the edible stuff, into the rubbish bins. And I've had the same worms, or they're breeding obviously, for about 6 years. So I think the council should actually look at encouraging people to use worm farms for waste instead of putting it in the bins. And then you can use the remains for fertilising your garden, of course. I think that's about my comment. I noticed that the officer didn't really say too much, which is unusual for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alan. Are there any questions? Councillor Crystal.
Through the Mayor, just not really a question, just to let you know, we are getting a shaky house in the MTG. So that's opening very soon.
Oh, okay.
That's not, and we haven't paid for it.
Right, very good.
Big point there. And totally agree with you about composting. I have a compost bin. I've just moved house. I've got a new compost bin, and I'm a total advocate. I'm from a farm, and I'm a total advocate for. And I think everyone that possibly could, but impossible in an apartment. But if you've got a backyard, it's a so easy thing to do.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Do you know that worms get rid of heavy metals as well?
No, really.
They're incredible. Look after them. Right, is that me?
Yeah, I think that is. Thank you so much, Alan.
Thank you.
Right, and we have one final submitter before we take a break. Chris McLean. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Chris McLean. I'm a Napier resident, and for the last 4 years I've been living in an apartment in Emerson Street. I'm also a writer and a professional historian, and the matter that I wish to raise with you today is the future of the mini golf courses. Now, in the council's preferred option, which is to lease the mini golf courses along with the eyesight building to an independent party, that's a concern to me. Now, that's described as option 1, and the notes on the Napier City Council website make it clear, and I quote, that the golf course size and layout could be changed to best suit whatever future activities take place in the Marine Parade building, meaning the eyesight premises. And as it notes later, that is the council's preferred option. I suggest that in seeking to give the eyesight lessee maximum flexibility and income, the council is potentially sacrificing a long-standing community asset. The eyesight lessee might reduce the current courses or even close them down. Whatever it does will be beyond the council's control. And we've just heard Alan suggesting that they be used for bus parking for cruise ships. In the past 4 years, my partner and I, sometimes with friends, have played many games here. These are our scorecards, all right? So we're passionate about it. And these are perhaps the oldest mini golf courses in the country, and certainly amongst the best. It is not necessary to imperil their future to make the leasing of the eyesight building attractive. There is sufficient land immediately in front of the building to allow for redevelopment and modest expansion without endangering the golf courses. At present, the large deck on the seaward side of the building is seldom used, Even with a redesign and new use of the building, it should not be necessary to sacrifice our mini golf courses. I'd like to speak now about the heritage status of this facility. The freedom to change provision ignores the heritage status of this recreational facility. A putting green began here in 1931, soon after the earthquake, and in 1974 the present courses were built. That means they're now more than 50 years old. To my knowledge, they are among the oldest, perhaps the oldest, such courses in the country, and this site has a history of this activity which dates back almost a century. I don't need to remind this council how perilous it can be to ignore heritage. The building we are in today is a sad and costly reminder of that. I'd now like to examine the second option, which I think is also unsatisfactory for the following reasons. First of all, staffing. At present, the mini golf course, Par 2, is run by a number of council employees, particularly eyesight staff on rotation, students and casuals. Their interest in the facility and its management varies greatly. Secondly, the maintenance of the courses is minimal. The greens are frequently covered with debris and little is often done about it. Furthermore, when structural maintenance occurs, it is usually poorly done. Check out the efforts to maintain the block margins of the greens, which make the game played here quite capricious. These courses need revitalisation, as you would expect for any 50-year-old facility. In conclusion, it seems that the Napier City Council may be unwilling or unable to adequately manage this important civic amenity. It may well be a good idea to seek others to manage it, but no independent party should be given the right to change the size and layout of the courses. Not only is this not necessary, but it is essentially privatising public land while imperiling a valuable attraction. Par 2 mini golf is especially popular with locals and New Zealanders. Curiously, few of the cruise ship passengers who have been such a subject of conversation this morning, who throng this area while waiting for buses, seldom play the game. So the council's argument that the tourist business is volatile is only applicable to the international market. We need to safeguard and upgrade these incomparable and historic courses, not give them way to be reduced or even closed by a commercial operator. They have been one of Napier's waterfront attractions for almost a century and deserve better than what is proposed in either option. It is time to think more carefully about their future in their own right, not just as an adjunct to the adjacent building. Thank you for the opportunity to be heard.
Thank you very much, Chris. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Brown.
Kia ora. Thank you for your presentation. I love your mini golf passion. We've got quite a few in the community who would say it's not an activity that council should be in. They don't all share your passion. And I'm just wondering if you could see like a middle ground in that around how we could protect the parts that you're wanting protecting, but essentially exit it as a council. So lease it to someone or...
Sorry, just repeat the last phrase.
So how do we, is there a middle ground that you can see where the bits of it that you want protected stay, but the community who say, council, you shouldn't be part of running a mini golf, that they're also satisfied?
I think we need to be mindful of the historical experience. I think it was in Michael Fowler's latest book called Marine Parade. There's a segment in there on the golf courses, and he talks about an operator, an Australian company, private operator, in I think the late 1940s, who were very avaricious, and ultimately it led to the facility being closed for a couple of years, because basically the Australians wanted the Kiwi operator pushed through people as fast as possible. And so I'm not arguing that private ownership is necessarily the best way to do it, but nor am I necessarily agreeing with people who say that the council should not be involved in this. I mean, the Marine Parade is Napier's major attraction. And you don't have to, I mean, how many of you people have played there? Okay, all right, so you know. I mean, especially if you go down there during the school holidays, the place is absolutely crazy, but most of the time, you know, it's ticking over pretty well. And it's very hard to answer your question without actually being privy to the finances of the operation and knowing how much it makes and what kind of costs it's got. It's the entry charge is pretty... You know, it's pretty commercial. It's there around $20 around with most places in New Zealand. So, you know, you're charging that sort of rate. I think the real problem is there isn't a dedicated person or persons within the council whose job it is to look after the course. Or if there is, you know, they're in an office somewhere, whereas you've just got this rotation of people who have varying degrees of interest in what they're doing. The students and the casuals couldn't care less. The eyesight people are very friendly, but nobody cares about the golf or the course. So it's been allowed to, it's virtually been neglected. And I think it's a great opportunity for the council. If you were prepared to provide me with the finances, I would certainly be prepared as a representative of users to be involved in any discussions about its future.
Any further questions? I guess just from myself and acknowledging that you think that the existing course obviously needs some TLC and attention. You wouldn't be supportive of adding a second course, of actually expanding the existing facility? You think that what is there is adequate but needs some TLC and some money invested in what's already there?
There are two courses there, Kirsten, not one, and they're very good actually. The design of them is excellent. The only problem with them is that they have around each hole, or at least each green, shall we call it, you've got a block margin, which is totally inadequate. If you look at most of the more recent facilities, they have a continuous concrete curbing, which doesn't have any breaks in it, and it makes for a much better game. So I think that what I ideally would like the council to do is put some passion and money and thought and imagination into the golf courses, rather than looking at something that they can just attach to the eyesight deal without any protection whatsoever. That's the major concern, and you heard from Alan what he wanted to do with them. So it would be tragic if we allowed that wonderful facility, which is nearly 100 years old and probably the leading one in the country, or one of the best ones, just to be sacrificed for a very short-term saving, or possibly, you know, to satisfy a leasee of a building that, you know, may or may not be used for some community-minded purpose.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's no further questions. Again, thank you, Chris. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I withdraw my submission on that.
Thank you. Okay, so we will be taking a lunch break now. Before we do that, though, I neglected to confirm some minutes at the start of the meeting, so we will quickly deal with that now. So confirmation of the minutes from the 29th of April 2025. If I could have a mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Crystal and Councillor Gregg. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. And we will reconvene at 1 o'clock.